Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Y'all ready for this?
Jocks fans, this week we have the pleasure of welcoming the star, or I feel like he's the star of the coming in hot.
No, go with that.
Yeah, the coming in hot star, Brent Wallace, Ottawa Senators insider, and to me, face of the franchise. You've been there in Ottawa and synonymous with Ottawa hockey for so long. Super pumped to have you on. I have a buddy of mine that I feel like reaches out to you on social media all the time. He started his own Sens hashtag, Sens and Seven, on absolutely everything.
Oh, no.
He tweets this out, and he is so intense with his hockey views. Love him to death. Great guy, but just all the time he'll text me, hope you're having a great day, Sens and Seven. And I'm just like, or we'll be talking about my wedding, and he's like, I'm there, Sens and Seven. And I'm just like, okay, Nick, like, let's settle down at the Sens and Seven.
But here's the thing, though, and I appreciate Nick, because that is called commitment.
Do you know Nick, though? Because he's all like, Brent has to see me, man. I love I do the hashtag Sens and Seven. He's like, I just want Brent to notice my Sens and Seven.
You can tell Nick I am aware of his social media.
Oh, this is great. That just made my whole life. Oh, man.
This guy is, I've made his year. I texted him the other day, this Sens logo here, I just learned Photoshop doing stuff for the podcast. I edited out this face, and I've put his face under that and sent it to him, Sens and Seven. And I'm pretty sure he made that his profile picture for a little bit.
Before we go any further, I just have to ask why the Habs hat. I'm confused.
So we're Habs fans.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wear a different hat every episode, so I'm trying to not be repetitive.
Okay.
Just poor selection tonight, and I was gonna say I'd offer him another one,
but it definitely doesn't fit my head.
The only other one I have down here is a Sabres hat from when I jumped on the playoff playoff push bandwagon for the Sabres last year.
Now I'm gonna be
maybe a Detroit Lions hat, and that's not any better.
No, I'm not putting.
It was the first team I covered in the NHL. I lived in Montreal for a year before I moved to Ottawa. So I will kind of give you like it's an homage to my start of my NHL career.
Perfect.
So that's what I did. That's why I wore it. That's why I wore it. I mean, I said take it off, but my hair is just out of whack right now.
Right now?
Yeah. Hey, man,
it's the Bobby Ryan hair.
Yeah. You're the only guy without gray hair in this video right now. So
honestly, I would love some gray. I did briefly a couple of years ago do the I don't know what you'd call it, highlights, I guess. But it wasn't the blonde. I did the silver. I couldn't pull it off. It looked super unnatural.
You walked into the hair salon and went, guys, this is it. Do it up. Give me the silver.
100%. I mean, I didn't use your picture. Maybe that was I went in with the wrong picture, but I walked out and it looked more like a silver fox. It was like a bluish gray, and it lasted much longer than I wanted it to be. And so I called the girl back at the salon, and I'm like, not really close to the picture, I was hoping to get. She's like, you know what you need to do? Buy this purple shampoo, and it'll do the silver. So I put the purple shampoo in, and it made it look even more blue. And it was unfortunate. I was a Michigan State, still am a Michigan State Wolverines fan, and I wore a Go Blue T-shirt to a barbecue, and I got carved so hard because they thought I was just so diehard. I did my hair streaks of blue. I was the butt of a joke for a long time. So I'm just going to have to naturally wait, I guess, to be as distinguished as you gentlemen.
And I apologize because we are way off topic, I'm sure, from where you wanted to begin, but
You know
nothing
what?
like
That's
just
what I love about this, though. It
just
makes for better
getting
content.
off the rails. Yeah.
No,
If you watch our show, you'll see that happens quite frequently. So I can appreciate where we're at in the show already.
it's the best type. Like if I know what I'm listening to, what's the point of tuning in?
Yeah.
When I first started in TV, they asked me to dye my hair gray and wear glasses so I would look older, because I think I was
Really?
22, 23 at the time. Now they're like, can you dye it back the other way, maybe?
I actually had someone ask me if I dyed my hair gray. Like, yeah, like I was like, yeah, exactly. It's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
I
what though?
appreciate
Like
that.
if you were to put me like on the spot and like just describe to me sports like personalities that like and they're like, you know, like I mean I really only watch hockey, but you know, hockey analyst, gray hair, Brent Wallace, first thing that comes to mind. Maybe shortly after a mix of like Craig Button, Bob McKenzie, but forefront Brent Wallace.
I will give credit to he's now Dan O'Toole's producer, but he's a longtime producer of the Jay and Dan show. He said I had electable hair, and so I've used that now throughout my
That's
career.
a fantastic compliment.
Electable
I don't
hair.
think I've heard anybody use the word electable to describe hair.
Yeah, so that's what I stick with.
That's fantastic. I mean, yeah, I don't think I've ever heard anybody use that word to describe somebody's hair. So that's a 1 in a million compliment.
I'll take it.
So we'll
yeah, bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back in. I don't know if my fishing reel hand motion made the video, but we'll tune it back and we'll, like we do with most episodes, start talking about your career, kind of your start, and just walk along the story and the journey that is Brent Wallace. And we'll go from there. I want to learn as much as I can about you as an individual in the next hour. But you know what though? That's a comment I get often is, you know, we'll have, you know, probably selfishly a lot of, you know, we'll get any player that'll answer us at this point. You know, and fortunate enough that there's people crazy enough that are like, yeah, we'll talk to two guys that have zero experience in the National Hockey League.
What's your favorite interview you've done so far?
I'm not going to answer that because I've watched enough interviews to know that question never answers well. I will tell you
why. Why?
I will tell you. I don't know. I feel like, and again, this isn't me being a kiss ass, but I have loved every single interview I've done for a specific reason, and I feel like we haven't had. We've had a difficult individual that comes to mind to work with, but we haven't had anybody that I'm like, I would not work with this person again. And everybody has brought or taught us something. And we're still like, this is episode, I think, 39 of our first season. So we're only 39 episodes deep. I have learned something walking away from every single podcast. And I don't think I could, not because I don't want to. I just don't want to say this person was better than the rest. I have learned something every single episode where I'm just like, I'm not going, like, I'm going to do this differently. Or I really liked, you know, the phrasing that, you know, so-and-so used, or the ideology this person had. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that I'll ever stop learning. Like, I want to soak up as much as I can from people that I've looked up to for so long.
So I'm guessing in your high school yearbook, it said, Joel, future politician.
That, honestly, you know what? His answer was so boring. I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to answer the question because, I mean, hey, I like Joel said, loved everybody. But for me, my favorite one was Cabby, because like Cabby Richards, because I grew up watching Cabby in the Score. Like I feel like turning the Score on when I was a kid and he was in the TV, it was like, you know what? I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy having fun, talking shit that he loves. And like, I can't say I went to college. I went there. I went to Ottawa for a year to spend money and it didn't work out. The only class I did good in is the days we'd go to the radio station and do ads. And I always was good at that. And then, but then I realized that I can't swear on the radio, so I was like, wow, I'm fucked.
out.
But yeah, I'm out. I'm out.
So-
but then, yeah, cabbies.
I went to UNB for a year and they
Yeah.
asked me not to come back. So I feel you're
For a
enjoyment.
similar reason or for an unrelated
yeah,
reason?
because I was stupid. Yeah, basically.
I mean, if I had to pick somebody,
Oh, he's going back on his answer now.
no,
Future politician.
No,
Politician.
I still stand by what I said. I have not had a bad experience or one that
Yeah,
sticks
yeah.
out more than
I'm
another.
not asking that. So the only reason I asked you that was because usually the guest that you enjoy the most is going to be the one that nobody expects. So
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh, you got a big name on your show. Yeah, but that's not necessarily the guy that's the most entertaining or girl or whatever. It tends to be the one like that's why I love covering amateur athletes is because they just want to compete. They just want to win. And they don't have anything to compare. Like they're not concerned so much about their dollars in sponsorship. They honestly give you answers. And so that's why I've always enjoyed the Olympics. And some would argue that's not really amateur sports, but it is.
So can I pick an
yeah.
amateur sports moment then that isn't part of this podcast?
No.
Because
I was just curious if you had
Okay.
one. Normally it's just it's usually a guest that you just don't expect. That's always been the answer for me.
Okay, I mean, off the top of my head, if I'm talking since I began this podcast, I worked with Hockey Canada, where I was fortunate enough to meet Craig Button, and Craig has coached me, a little bit as well
Yep.
as Jim
He's
Lang,
a fantastic individual.
who used to be a Sportsnet. Two fantastic guys, but I met two prospects and a coach at the Junior A Challenge in Cornwall. Both of them were lucky enough to get drafted in this most recent draft. Jacob Fowler in the 3rd round by the Canadiens, goaltender, and Christian Kostadinski, defenseman from Sweden, in the 7th round by Boston. Both of these guys, I tried to interview a different player because we only had so much time after every game, and I wanted to give everybody kind of a shot to get in front of the camera. But these guys were electric, and the interviews, like I always threw in like a random interview, had no or a random question with no intention of adding it to the final cut. And it was, what would you bring on a desert island?
Mhm.
And the interest, like both of them, like Christian Kostadinski's like 6'7", he's like was 17, just a mammoth of a man. He's going to be dangerous to play against as a Habs fan down the road, but he's like, I'm going to bring my best friend. And it was just this, like, it reminded me of like Max Pacioretty, David Desharnais. Patches is towering over this little guy, and Christian's like, yes, my buddy. And Jacob just so down to earth, and I was elated that the Habs drafted him because I'm like, that's the type of personality I would love my team to have in the dressing room. So that those two really stick out to me, and it's the fact that I can look at their careers moving forward.
Yep.
And just for best experience, and again, this was maybe like 5 episodes in that I had this opportunity, was Anders Eriksson, the head coach of Sweden. And the best answer I've ever gotten to an interview question, I asked him what he thought of poutine because they had me order dinner for them. So I'm like, what do you think of poutine? And he went on for about 3 minutes about how he doesn't support the war between Russia and Ukraine. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he's all like, Putin has to go. And I'm like, oh no, not Putin, the president. Like, I'm talking cheese, gravy, like French fries. And he's like, oh, I am so sorry. No, just French fries, ketchup, nothing else. So that was, that sticks out to me. But like I said, you have the opportunity right now to steal that, Brent.
No, not doing it.
No, but I've never had somebody, I mean, probably other than Cabby, turn the tables and be like, I have a question for you guys. And I love that because I'm never expecting it.
So the biggest thing with doing interviews in general, it doesn't matter what it is just have a conversation. So the more you can get conversational, the more people will open up. And so podcasts are what's fantastic because you get the hour or you get whatever, an extended period. It takes 20 minutes to get people to kind of relax and get into a feeling of where everybody stands. And then they start to open up. So I can appreciate doing long form interviews. So I will continue on and I will give you the brief Brent Wallace synopsis of where I got to today. From Fredericton, New Brunswick, I did access cable high school basketball after my grade 10 playing career. So I was covering it was Fundy Cable, but it's basically Rogers Cable now. But that's how old I am. So from there, I went to UNB for a year and then they asked me not to come back. And then I opened my own sports clothing store. And then a couple, I don't know, I might even been during the same time. My mom's like, there's a broadcasting school in Halifax. Why don't you go do that? And I was like, okay. So Alex J. Walling, who was the TSN reporter in the Maritimes at the time, owned the school. And it becomes important in a little bit later. So I go to this broadcasting school. It's 11 months long. And so AJ's there. And at the first day of school, he goes, hey, just everybody stand up, give me your name and what you want to do. And I said, I'm Brent and I want your job, which was the TSN reporter in the Maritimes. Plus he did the local 6 p.m. sports for, at the time it was MITV. It's now Global in Halifax. We hit it off right away. And then he started taking me out on shoots that he was doing. And I remember going, so I'm from Fredericton. I was doing a story on Danny Grant, or I was with AJ doing the story. And I thought it was really cool to be in Fredericton with Danny Grant. It was a 50-goal scorer for the Detroit Red Wings. And so that's kind of where I got this bug of like, yeah, like this is something I really want to do. So he allowed me to take which was a beta camera home, and I was shooting Maritime junior hockey games. I was shooting CIS games, basketball. I was doing everything I could. And then I got an internship at the local TV station. AJ wasn't there anymore, but it was MITV, and they paid me I was volunteering 6 hours a night, but they were paying me like an hour a night, then 2 hours a night, then 3 hours. School was done, went to Canadian Tire during the day. So 8 to 5. And then I worked 6 to midnight for a year at MITV as the sports producer on the whatever. So, and then it became weekend sports reporter, and then it became doing all kinds of other stuff. So that's from like 94 to 97. In 97, they opened up the Global TV station in Montreal, and they hired me as part of their launch sports program. And then I was there for 11 months. By that time, they ended up canceling the entire sports show. And that was the year of the Expos, by the way. Pedro Martinez won the Cy Young, so I got to cover that, which is, I thought, pretty cool.
That's a fantastic time in Montreal.
But we'll get to the Habs in a sec, because that wasn't a very good time for the Montreal Canadiens.
It was not. I was going to say, you just missed like the kind of the final glory days in 93.
Yes. So it was, and it ended up with Mick Vukota and Zarly Zalapsky. And I don't mean to disparage anybody, but they're not the names that we're used to hearing. Mark Recchi was still there, but
yeah,
I think Vincent Domfuska traded when I was just starting there. Anyway. And then one night at an Expos game, Michael Whalen, who was the TSN reporter, said, Brent, there's an opening in Ottawa for the TSN reporter job. I've already contacted them. I want you to call them tomorrow. And a couple weeks later, I was hired in Ottawa, and that was 98. And I was there until, what's that make it, 2022? When did they let me go? 2021. And now I'm hosting podcasts.
You know what, though? I feel like you just keep, they ask you not to come back. You move up.
Yeah.
They shut down CTV, you move up.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, and I mean your opinion on I mean, obviously it doesn't feel good to be let go from a situation for any reason, merited or not, and you definitely did not merit it. But I feel like you have had multiple successful ventures since. And I mean, I feel like podcasts are the way of the future. And if you look at, regardless if it's TSN, Sportsnet, the Score, they're all moving towards, branching off to that. And I feel like you were ahead of that curve again. And you almost, what's that saying? Is it falling upward? Maybe.
Good to be, I've been very lucky. I'll say that. Like, you got to be in the right place at the right time. I have worked really hard. I I will admit to that, but you got to have some luck along the way. And so I've been fortunate. Did I want to lose my job at TSN? No. I'm not going to be the only one, and there's been some since, and we see it every year, and every year it bothers me to no end. It feels you go through it all over again with these people. And so we'll see where this takes us. I tend to think that perhaps online digital is obviously, it feels like it's the future.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm positioned for it, but we'll see how it goes.
I mean, I feel like you are because, I mean, again, maybe, I mean, I'm a little younger than Adam.
Okay, but like 1 year. Let's forget. Well, it's 1 year.
But
with that baby face, it looks a lot more though.
it does. It does. I can't grow facial hair. It's awful. I look so much younger. But and I don't even know if you watched this as a kid, and maybe you're familiar with the show, Brent, but when Blue's Clues got rid of Steve, it just wasn't the same.
Yeah, it's
and then
it's Filipino Josh now.
Yeah, but wait, then
I wasn't aware.
We had Steve's brother,
John.
I forget the name, but it was, you finally kind of got used to it, and then he left, and I just feel like it's kind of the same thing with every round of the layoffs, where it's like, I woke up every morning, watched TSN, so I'm seeing you, Jay, Dan, they're whoever the hell producer Tim looks like. I
have a picture.
Do you? I've Googled it. I don't know if it is him because I have nothing to compare it to. But it was just like, that's what I grew up with. That's what I know. When I think hockey, I'm thinking the TSN panel, John Liu, TSN, Montreal, with his sweet mustache, Forhan Lalji, Ryan Rashog out in Edmonton, like I think of you. And it's just like, at what point where I tune in, and unless it's Trade Center and they bring a slew of people back, like the last straw for me was kind of breaking up that core, whatever you said it was, 2021, 2022, 2020. I feel like everything in COVID was a blur. I remember where I was when it was announced, what year it was. I couldn't tell you. I remember just stripping down from a COVID unit at work. And I look at my phone and it's like Brent Wallace, Dan O'Toole, amongst
Natasha.
cuts, among cuts by TSN. And I was just like, what's the point in me living anymore? Like, why am I getting up and doing this if I can't turn on TSN to wake me up in the morning and it's a new intern every week? And it upsets me.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the way it goes. It's all money driven, and
for sure.
I mean, that's obviously the way it is. But that, like, it was February 3rd. I'll know that. I 2021. I guess I just know that I used to count the months, because there's been a few people that I still stay in contact with that got laid off on that particular day. Natasha and Dan, and there's a few others outside. So at one point we'd be just like, yeah, it's March 3rd. It's been 1 month. And for a long time, you just feel like you're just trying to tread water. And that was tough because I got an email the night before. I just finished SportsCenter. I did a hit in my house here with Rod Smith. I think it was 3:30 p.m. And then at 7:30, just after the show, and I knew that there was layoffs at different positions that day. And so we all knew that the next day was, I think they're called C-suite, whatever. I don't even know. And so we knew it was our level, and it was a little discomfort, but I thought we'd get through it. And then I got an email, business decision, I think it was called, conference call, but there's only one name on it. And I'm like, that's not good. So I knew right then. So I had to sleep on it and then wait till the next day to get told.
So
that's
so you didn't sleep that night, in other words.
No, I remember. So my kids had just come in the house, actually my wife and kids, and I didn't want to say anything. So I just remember sending a text to my wife. I think I'm getting fired tomorrow. And she didn't have any idea what to say. So I'll never forget that. But it was just like, when everything is just frozen around you and you're just sitting there, that's what's going on. And so that was the next 4 days were extremely tough. I will admit I sat on my bedroom floor and cried probably every day. And I got calls from people that I didn't expect and text messages that I didn't know knew my name or whatever. And so that was big. I got some key advice, which so you always say, you know, who your friends are in tough times.
Mhm.
There's been a few guys that you'd like, wonder if we're really that close. There were some that really stepped up and became really, really good to me. And that's where I guess you try to find the strength to keep moving.
Well, that's, I guess, one silver lining to come out of, a dark day. And I mean, you obviously remember that date for a much, I mean, it was negative, from, I feel like, a viewership standpoint. But, we spoke with Jay Onright about that, a couple months ago now. And, he was saying it as like a third party, almost like, I mean, I got the sense, and disagree or agree if you've got the same sense, but like almost like a survivor's guilt of
Yep.
my buddies, like, and I mean, he worked, I mean, being, the morning, or I guess filming at night, but, kind of the host of Sports Center, and then, but working with Jay so closely, like not only that one, but, everybody that they cut to, everybody that had a segment, it seemed like they pulled at least one key person from each area. And it's just like, I mean, I got the sense in how raw and he got emotional about, how that felt. And it hurt me then, because, we see you on TV for so long, and even though you don't know us, we feel like we know you.
Right.
And it was like weird to come to terms that what I've known and what I've looked up to and what I wanted to do, as a kid in growing up, and, I'd like to do something like that with my life, that no longer exists. That idea of that was blown up. But then hearing like you from a first, like, this happened to you, you went through this, just honestly like tears or pulls on my heartstrings again.
It's tough because it's public, right? So I don't have any, I can't hide. And so the first thing is they go, you got 15 minutes to transfer anything off your phone or laptop before we wipe you out of the system. And I just remember hanging up the phone going, I can't, I'm worried about my family right now. I never thought of backing up my phone. So all these people are texting me and I have no names associated with numbers. So for like 4 or 5 days, like 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm sorry. I thank you for the text message. I have no idea who this is. But I had to go tell my family because it's COVID. So everybody's home. And with social media, you don't want it to get out on social media without your family or your kids. So
like, how much time did they give you grace period between that Zoom call or whatever conference call?
Just a phone call.
How long? Sorry?
It was just a phone call. So the phone call lasted, if anybody really cares to hear this, I think 45 seconds.
Jesus Christ.
My producer basically read a statement. Then I said, why me? And he was like, it's a business decision. And so they're told just to read from a script. Don't deviate. Don't do anything. And then they go, I'm going to pass you off to the HR person. And it was like, what's the up in the air?
Yeah.
Is that the movie with Mel Gibson where he goes and lays people off? I think that's the one where he travels to the airport.
I mean, if it's not, I know what
right?
movie you're talking about. I think that's the name of it, though.
This exact moment.
Is it not?
George Clooney. Yes,
yeah,
you're right.
Okay. Yeah. Another distinguished gray-haired man.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I remember that. I'm thinking of that particular scene where he comes in and tells people and they're just dumbfounded. Like, what do I do now? What's the future? Like,
yeah.
And so they go, here's the HR person. And she starts going over. So now this is going to be your severance package. And this is what's going to happen. And this is who you're going to, I'm like, that was totally me. I was in the movie for a minute. Anyway, I had to go tell my family. And I just remember going into my daughter's room where I assembled everybody because my daughter was laying in bed. And I'm like, sorry, I just lost my job. And she's like, are we going to lose our house? And that one was tough. So you sit there and you try to be like, I'm going to be strong. And I'm like, we're good. We're not going to lose our house. But they, like, you're talking 15 and 14-year-old kids or 16, somewhere in there. And they were obviously crushed. Right. So anyway, point is it has to come out on social media. So I didn't want them to start reading about it. And so I had to make sure that they knew before it got out. And that one was tough.
So like you found this out, let's say 9 a.m.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. And how long did they give you before, like, this is going to be a public announcement?
They never announced it. I did.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
there was
you know what? That makes sense, because I remember it was like a Twitter notification, and it was like the, whatever so-and-so that you follow have tweeted about. And it was probably like a TSN firings hashtag or something, because I remember a couple of those went around for a while with a bunch of people being,
let go and stuff. Yeah.
Well, Twitter got fired up, rightfully so. But that is definitely, probably a part of the story that, paints a fuller picture for us, because obviously we got the only account we received was Jay's as a third party. But that even bothers me more and enrages me as a fan of so many of you that were let go, that it was done so impersonally.
It bothered me. It was over a phone call. That one.
Yeah.
But here's the funny part. I'm always early for everything. Like when I die, I better be early for my funeral, because everything I do I'm 50 minutes early. Like if my kids said we're leaving at 8, then you better be ready at 7:55. In fact, my cameraman, who I spent 20 years with, knew if we said 8, it meant 7:50. So I'm on the call, and I know what's coming. I'm on the call before anybody else. And then the HR lady gets on, and she goes, "Is this Ken?" who was the executive producer at the time. I'm like, "No, this is Brent." She's like, "Oh, 1 second." I'm like, "Brent, you're early for your own firing, for the love of God."
Yeah. Like the one thing you probably want to delay the most. Yeah. And you're just like,
I just wanted it over.
But you know what? That's a character. That's an integrity move that, you showed up early for what you knew was an inevitable demise. And you know what? You never want to be in that situation, but like, it hurts, I guess. I mean, maybe this is more personal. It would bother me knowing, like, you're not like this celebrity that ended up in like this scandal, and you're being blackballed or fired or whatever you want to call it. Like you're cut or you're being let go for a reason. It's just like, we're wanting to tighten the belt. And
yes,
like, I don't know, that would bother me, because then I would probably, and again, maybe you tell us your thought process, but I would probably be comparing myself. Well, I have more seniority. I've done this. They've trusted this in me. Like, why does this person like?
So you do that,
not to cut down other people, but you want to
not fair to anybody else.
Yeah.
So and I did that. I'm like, well, because I was the only reporter that was that hosted a regional broadcast, if you will, the only reporter that was an anchor at SportsCenter. And I was the Eastern reporter for the National Hockey League. So whenever there was a big story in the East, I would do it. In the West, it was Ryan Rashog. So all those things combined, I was the only one that did all those together. But as far as I know, and I don't know if I'll get sued. Like, as far as I know, Bell goes, you need to cut $1 million out of the budget. And they look and go, well, Brent makes $1 million, so we're cutting him. That's it. So that's how that's my understanding of, they need to make the numbers work, and this is what happens. So listen, there's nothing in my file that I'm aware of that says we got to get rid of Brent. So
refuse to dye his hair back to and didn't wear the glasses.
Yeah.
So,
it's like I did. So there was, anyway, I could go on, but there was a ton of stuff that I did. I was the only SportsCenter reporter for the Olympics in Vancouver and the only SportsCenter reporter for London in 2012. There was a ton of stuff. And by the way, extremely lucky. But out of all of this, and maybe this is the one point, like the tweet that I announced my layoff on was the most interaction I'd ever gotten on Twitter, which by the one way it's like, damn it. But the other way is like, there is a sense of, okay, maybe I did it, or I was able to connect with fans. And what it did was, it was meant more to me than it did to any fan. That's without question, or any viewer. I appreciated everybody letting me bother them for 2 minutes a night to come into the living room. but it was that was a big thing for me. If not for, I'll say the support, I'm not sure what would happen, but it was key. So a huge thank you to people that just took the time to send a tweet.
Well, as somebody that, as you just said, welcomed you into their living room for a brief moment daily. I thank you, because you are on the list of, I was pretty loyal to TSN up until that point. You were somebody that, I looked up to in a name that stuck, in my head of, like I said, you're talking synonymous with hockey and us being in the East. You covered huge moments. My earliest that I can remember significance at Olympics, Vancouver 2010. Who was there? Brent, Wallace. Like, just when I think, TSN, you are, or I guess not even TSN. When I think sports moments growing up, you are in my memories. So as much as, you thank people for reaching out, I feel like you had that impact.
I appreciate it.
And obviously not to the degree of, people say, like, you wonder what people would say at your funeral.
Yes.
Kind of a, don't want to be grim like that.
No, but it's so true. I went through basically my funeral on Twitter.
Yeah.
But you know what? You're resurrected.
Yeah.
And and I would say that you are doing great. And like I said, as I looked up to you as a kid, whenever I'm like, I want to be on TSN, I want to be this person. And I was fortunate enough to work the grueling hours of pro baseball. And, choice between, do you want friendships, relationships, or sacrifice and do the career route. And
I missed my daughter's first steps, right? Like, I remember I went to the World Juniors in Ufa, Russia. I think maybe 2013. No, it would have been the Olympics, because my daughter's a June birthday. And she's like, can't you tell him it's your little girl's birthday? I'm like, oh, don't do this. So the number of events, I missed Mother's Day for like the first 7 years. And so on the 8th one, I'm flying home that day. I end up falling asleep on the couch because it's playoffs at the time. Yeah. And that doesn't go over well. Yeah. Just a tip on Mother's Day, don't fall asleep on the couch. But like, I had great moments. I did leave out one thing. In 1994, and I'm going to broadcasting school, I'm doing the Atlantic Bowl as I'm a spotter in the booth with John Wells and the great late Leif Pettersson. Anyway, part of it is I got a Sun Ice jacket on. If you remember Sun Ice back in the day, it's very vibrant colors, lots of neon. And Leif Pettersson, so I'd have to lean over to see who got tackled so I could point to say who this is. And he keeps pushing me back. And I'm like, what is this guy's problem? Like, I need to. And Leaf is like, he goes, it's your jacket. It's too bright and I can't see the monitor. I'm like, oh, sorry. So I had to take the jacket off. But anyway, at that moment, I had my press pass and I had them sign it. And I said, I'll see you at TSN in 5 years. And John Wells signed it. And he says, see you at TSN in 5 years. And I was hired in 1998. So this was the 93 Atlantic Bowl. And it was 5 years later, I was hired at TSN. That's just one of the stories. But the 2010, here's the 2010 thing, which is I find extremely entertaining. I cover every day of Ian Mendez and I are together at the hip covering men's hockey. I was supposed to do Whistler, but they said, we're moving you down to cover men's hockey every day. I'm like, all right. I would have preferred to do a Whistler. I know that sounds stupid, but I cover all the NHL players all year. I just wanted a break from them to get, as I said, I prefer amateur athletes. So on the first day, Steve Eisenman's yelling at me. And so we're at practice and it's a small little rink. It's got like 6 steps and he is talking to Doug Armstrong, but he's standing in the stands and Doug Armstrong's facing him seated. And we're right behind him with cameras. There's like 6 cameras and he's talking to Doug and it's fairly loud, although I can't hear what he's saying. And he just looks over at me and he's like, hey, what are you doing? You can't film us. That's invasion of privacy. And I'm like, Steve, this isn't the US. We can film. You're in a public. Anyway, he was so wound because it was so intense covering 2010 that anything was a problem. But by the way, we both met at a shrimp bowl one time at his brother's wedding that I was invited to. So we did chat, and I did apologize, and we hugged it out. So actually, we
that's
didn't.
very
hug.
good. I feel like I mean, Stevie Y, when he gets serious, like that's a,
Oh yeah,
like, and I mean, Doug Armstrong's a big boy too. Like those are probably two guys that you don't want to piss off.
no, and I'm like, why are you yelling at me? There's a bunch of other people. Anyway, so I do every day of 2010, and I think I don't remember how many days were there, 28, and they're like, you got to go home tomorrow, or you got to go to Toronto tomorrow. And I'm like, it's the gold medal game tomorrow. They're like, yeah, but Rod Smith has done 65 straight days of speed skating, and he's tired, so you have to fly in and do Sports Center. I'm like, okay, like, what am I going to say? No. So I'm on the flight. The gold medal game is on. I've never seen the gold medal game. Well, sort of. I land in Toronto, and it's in the third period. I'm in the taxi. I'm like, can you turn on the gold medal game wherever you can find it? So I listen to it. I check in the hotel, and it's just ending the third period. I watched the last 3 minutes, I think, in the lobby. So I go up to my room, get ready to watch overtime, set my bags down. I sit on the bed, turn the TV on, and I wake up to Chris Cuthbert yelling, Sidney Crosby with the golden goal. I've never seen that, basically, the gold medal game live.
Yeah, you sat down. That was your first mistake. The minute you sit down on a hotel bed, it's game over. Yeah, game over. So I gotta ask: are those beer cans in the back? If you don't mind me asking.
Yes, they are.
What brewery? I want to.
This is Whitewater Brewery.
Yeah, that's where my dad lives. My dad lives in Cobden. I kind of thought so. The circle looked familiar, but I wasn't sure. I didn't want to look like an ass and be like, "Oh, that's Whitewater."
No, great people.
Yeah.
So I appreciate everything that they do. I've had a few in my day.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I like it.
Yes, they are. So anyway, I've rambled long enough. We can move on.
Honestly, my guess though, before he said, I was going to say it out loud. I figured he covered the Sens. I thought it was going to be Big Rig.
So we talked to Big Rig about doing something. The problem with Big Rig is they're owned by a conglomerate now, if you will, since they sold. So it's been tougher, but we're still trying to see if we can pull that.
I feel like that makes logical sense for both of you.
Yes, it does.
But I mean, I'm just an average jock.
So well, and by the way, Big Rig is building a restaurant in the Ottawa airport that I just noticed.
Really?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Lansdowne and Ottawa now.
Yeah.
Ottawa airport.
Is there? Wait, there's one at Lansdowne?
Well, did they not?
It's not. It's right by IKEA, isn't it?
Yes. IKEA.
Sorry,
it's right by IKEA.
No, it's okay.
I have not lived in Ottawa since college. It's been a hot minute.
It's okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something. Be like, damn, I'll be there this weekend with the Red Blacks.
No, but when I was drinking or going to Big Rig, a few drinks were definitely consumed. And I definitely remember going there and then to a Red Blacks game, which is probably my blurred memory.
Yeah.
It all just meshed.
I will say one more beer plug is Ridge Rock, because it's owned by Calvin DeHaan. He's part owner. Who plays, well, now he plays for Tampa, played for Carolina, 12th overall
Chicago,
pick.
Islanders,
So fantastic beer, and it's always fun to go out and see Cal every once in a while. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna put that on my beer list. I think
it's really good.
I can no longer drink, but I was big into the NHL whiskeys. The Belfours, the Lafleur.
I want to try Chris Pronger's new. I think it's a whiskey he's got out, 44. I want to see what that's like. But anyway, we're off the rails. Sorry.
Yeah, well,
no, it's all good.
We tried to convince Jeremy Roenick to send us a bottle of his peanut butter whiskey, but we're still waiting, JR. We're still waiting.
It must be a border thing, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, no, it is. He was saying they're having some issues getting into Canada, but I looked at the price to import a bottle just for shits.
$200.
Yeah,
really,
very expensive. It cost me about $80 to import the Rocks tequila, and that was a little rich for my blood. So I'm just going to be patient with the peanut butter whiskey.
Yes. Fair enough.
So when you switched, like, I mean, I'm not sure. Again, I don't know how long your podcast has been going, but this with Bobby Ryan, correct?
So yes,
Yeah.
I launched the first podcast with Mark Mathot a month after I got let go. It was almost to the day. I think it was March 3rd. It might have been March 5th, whatever. And then September of last year, we launched Coming in Hot with Bobby Ryan, and Jason York has joined us as well.
Okay. So how? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
This
no,
is
it's
just
all
that I have a question. So how is it like switching from talking to a camera that would be broadcasted, like I'm not sure if you were broadcasted like live. I'm not sure
Yep.
but how was that different for you from going on a podcast? I'm not sure if you guys do your podcast live or you post.
We do.
So do you find it different talking about hockey, like with just one guy, well, two now, instead of I'm not sure exactly how I'm trying to ask.
I know what you're saying, so I'll explain it to you. It's there's nothing like being in the environment, whether it's at the game or whatever. Like I've had some pretty cool moments doing stuff and being in the moment. Like Darren Dreger and I are at I think it was a 1,400-year-old castle and doing a stand-up in Slovakia, or like we're at one of the royals palaces, I think it was, for one of the events in the Olympics, like just some really cool stuff. But I will say, like, I'm a little OCD. I'm a lot OCD. So the players, they just want to chill. They just want to wear a hat. They just want to come on, whatever. It's tough for me to even put a t-shirt on, for that matter. So it's not different to stare at a camera, but it's different to be relaxed. And just so when I first started the podcast, I remember our producer, Craig, he's like, dude, like you can't have everything regimented on a sheet. And I'm like, well, I don't know any different. Like that's what it is. And so I had to stop. I almost stopped sending out production notes. Like, we're just going to talk today. And they're like, what, are you mad at us? I'm like, no, I'm just trying to be different. So I'm trying to relax. So that, like, to relax was to not have everything perfect. That's an adjustment for me, because everything, when you're doing live TV on a network, it's got to be perfect, or at least I thought it did. This is, if I drop an F-bomb, or if I look down, or if I take a drink, none of that matters. And so that was tough for me. I'm a little better now. I'm still a little OCD.
You know what, Brent? I am so glad you said that, because that is everything you said is how I felt starting our podcast. And I have no previous experience.
Yeah.
But I remember staying up 1, 2 in the morning, writing like
it doesn't matter.
It didn't, because it never went off. And as soon as we would deviate from something I wrote, and it was something that I didn't prepare for, I was just like, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Don't like stick to the script, like stick to what we wrote. And we wouldn't have whoever our guest was re-record. But at the time, my other co-host, which is much more tech savant, Justin, would do all the editing. And I'm like, can we, whatever it was, minute 14 to minute 16, can we re-record that? And he would just redo me.
This would bug the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And we would just redo me. And the first couple episodes, we did no video, because I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be happy with my hair. I'm much like you. My dress down is golf shirt or button down Hawaiian shirt. And I'm like, if we're talking here and for however long, I remember the first few episodes, by the time we re-recorded stuff, the interview itself was maybe 45, hour and a half max. By the time we redid our stuff to where I needed it to be, we're looking at like 4 hours. And I was just like, I needed to pull a Brian Burke and loosen the tie a bit, and really learn to, like you said, chill out. But I rewatch our episodes after we finish recording, and I'm just like, I'd love to edit this out, but like, I need to calm the hell down.
Yeah.
No,
Like we don't edit any of our shows. So even if we record it, we might as well do it live. We've only taken out small parts very early on, and nothing since I switched to coming in hot. I don't think. What it is what it is, and that's you want the authenticity of guys just whoever just having a conversation, and so leave it in. Just keep it to like an hour or whatever. If you want to go longer, that's fine. But for the most part, don't alter it. Just let it go.
Yeah, like last week, I had to pee real bad last week. I took my mic off. I did not walk into the bathroom with my mic. I put it down. I did get up and pee. I do apologize to Jason Blake once again. I'm sorry, but I had to go.
That's awesome, right?
I did edit that out. My OCD did not.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that did not. Jason and I were both like, "What do we say right now?" We both had never been a part of something where somebody's like, "I got to pee." Like definitely like maybe a presentation in like elementary or high school, but I had never been a part of that. And Jason was as well. We're just looking at each other like, what do we continue?
For example, we're doing Ron Tugnut, and I forget which episode it is. And he's like, guys, hold on 1 second. The turkey's in the oven. I just got to go baste it. So he just gets up and leaves to get the turkey, fix it, and then come back and sit down. I'm like, I'm not taking, that's fantastic. Why am I taking that? Igor Sokolov had, I think it was water delivered to his hotel room. And so we're like, let's leave it in. Like, leave that stuff in, because people just want to see something different. They don't want the staunchy stoic reporter guy. They just want the people that want to have a little bit of fun and tell some jokes and be different. And that's all it is.
So the people want to see like, oh, I can do that. Like, I can talk to whoever and drink a bottle of water and not give a shit and stuff like that. Like it's just like and like like Joel said earlier, like podcasting becoming the future. Like you're seeing a lot of guys that that talk hockey and now have their own podcast. Like Spittin' Chicklets. You know what I mean? Like look at you and Bobby Ryan. Like I mean, which is cool. Like that's awesome. I love that. It's just I find talking hockey like with just whoever you're speaking to is a lot better. I find better conversations about hockey happen when guys don't have to not read a script, but follow that line of, okay, I can't say anything. What's the word I'm looking for?
Confrontational.
Thank you. Yeah. And not have any repercussions. Like, it's cool to be able to be like, yeah, I don't fucking like that guy. He's a loser. He could be a nice guy in real life, but
that works if the guy's retired.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And we found that out a couple weeks ago. Like I mentioned to you before the show, I've stopped editing out. I mean, unless it really hits my OCD. But for the most part, it's like 99% unedited. Unless the guest is like, you know what? I should probably cool telling you guys this. I don't really want the 50 people that listen to your podcast to know this as well. So I always respect that, but for the most part, like it's for sure the retired guys have nothing to lose unless you are doing a podcast or you have a business and you're just like,
or still a part of it. Like, like my cousin Scott we'd ask him some questions and he would like, we didn't want him to bash people or say bad things, but like, we want off the cuff, and then he would kind of veer his way back to, because he's still a part of some, I'm not sure what he does, but yeah.
Who's Scott?
Scott Pearson.
Scott Pearson.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So that there's some players, I won't name names, but I know they know stuff that I want them to tell me, and they're retired, but they're still working in hockey. Like, I can't tell you. And I'm like, damn it.
And you know what? That was the exact, what you just said is what happened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And
it was a great story too. I will
tell you
after
we get off, because I mean, being involved as you are, you is probably won't be news to you, but it was stuff as a hockey nerd myself that I was just like, you know what? Was my conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And this happened and this person confirmed it. And I was just like, son of a gun.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
he
yeah.
texted after very quickly and was like,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, very fair. I probably, without him saying that, would have probably took it out because I wouldn't want to blackball anybody, probably including ourselves. But it is a juggling act.
Yes, it is.
And we had on, Nathan King very early on, which is a teammate, or was a teammate of Mitchell Miller's, and kind of we spent 3 weeks before, like, he reached out to us, hey, seen the podcast, would love to come on, and he's all like, this is everything I know. And we took 3 weeks fact checking everything he had to say, dates, teams, checking up with other teammates, like, just to corroborate before we had him on, to make sure we weren't getting in hot water. And there was times where we were like, time out, he didn't mention this in the information. We would pause the Zoom or go into a breakout room, search up, come back, okay, we can talk about this. But it is, especially the, whatever, if we want to call it cancel culture or whatever, it takes one person for something to rub the wrong way. And it's.
So we had Brandon Prust on.
Love Prusty. He's off the cuff.
Sure. But he's a wingnut. And we discussed for a couple days leading up to it. Do we do that? It was right at the height of the COVID and the convoy. And so he was saying some stuff on social media. And I'm like, what do we do here? Do we do this? Anyway, we had him on, and the interview was fantastic. But people on social media didn't bother to listen. They just went at, you have Brandon Prust on your show.
Yeah.
So, by the way, everybody's allowed to have an opinion.
Oh,
it doesn't always have to be the right one. They can still have the opinion, and you can choose to listen or not. But don't come at and go, you need to make an apology for having him on your show, because he's never allowed to speak. Did you hear what he had? Like, I don't care if you don't want to listen, just don't come at me without even listening to it then. And so there's a few of those times you're like, what do we do here? That one was one I wasn't on board with completely, but his stories are fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing, like with those guys, like you said, like, again, it was happening during COVID and the convoy, and I don't follow Brandon Prust. I'm assuming he was on Twitter. He was saying this stuff.
Yeah.
So I have him on Instagram. So usually guys post pictures on that. But like, the thing is, like, if their stories are great, and like, you can just put aside that bullshit, bullshit, and listen to what he has to say. Like you said, his stories are probably great. Like, why does everything always have to come back to what's going on in the world? Why can't we just talk about hockey and have a great time?
So if people only knew, and this, I'm gonna probably get like, how many players are pro, like, Republican or pro Donald Trump or pro convoy, they'd lose their mind.
Yeah.
So, and I'm none of those things. So for me, it's like, I don't agree with you, but that story you told me about playing with that other guy, which has nothing to do with any of that stuff, is fucking hilarious. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. That's
So they just have to go into a corner because we disagree with them and never like
and you know what? It's the same on the other side, because if you were to talk to whatever side, the opinion of the other side is like, you know what I mean? Like, it happens. If the people say white, it's black. The people say left, it's right, up, down.
So what are your thoughts on Mike Fisher?
Love him.
I mean, I feel like I know where you're going with this.
You argue that he's mostly one of the most popular Ottawa Senators of all time?
Without a doubt. And I will go as far as saying he did a lot for the community. I get where you're going, flip side of it, when it comes to probably, I'm going to let you say it, but I know where you're going with this. And I feel like you don't have to agree with everything about somebody to admit that they've done good things, that they're a great player, that they're a good human being. You don't have to like my face.
No. So he's like, we are opposite people in our beliefs and our political affiliations. I don't not like him. I would go have a beer with him in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
He gave my daughter a Carrie Underwood signed CD, which won me Christmas. Like, I have nothing. So he doesn't agree with me. I'm okay with that. You're allowed to be different. Like, so, but I'm not going to turn down having Mike Fisher on my show.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Because he's got all kinds of stuff to tell me about the Ottawa Senators. And that's all I care about. We're not a political hockey show. We just want to tell some stories and make people laugh. I'm just just trying to be an entertainer.
That is exactly, how I feel, where it's just like, some people, especially, JR was somebody that we had on that,
Yes. Same
kind,
guy.
kind of went into some murky waters with comments. But and again, I've mentioned, or there's, again, you are 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 more established into anything I've ever done in the sports world. So I just will message people and be like, hey, love to have you on the podcast. This is who we've had on before. Would love to have you on. Would love to chat more. And my expectations of a reply are zero. So whenever Jeremy
Me too.
Roenick,
so don't worry about that.
Whenever Jeremy Roenick answers and is just like, yeah, I'll come on, and drops me his cell phone number, I'm not texting him and being like, JR, I will have you on before you come to your senses. And who the fuck are these guys? And why am I talking to these guys?
I totally agree.
And he politely told you to stop texting him so much.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's clear that
awesome.
up here. He said, text me. I will forget about this. Text me a week before. Text me 3 days before. Text me the day before.
Yeah.
So the second
okay, so he's lying to you because players don't, or player, I'm going to use, they don't want to hear from you that much. They want to know a week before and the day before.
Yeah. So I learned that the hard way with JR, but he gave me strict instructions, and that was probably the biggest name at the time to come on the show. My first. That was your first one?
Yeah, okay. JR, yeah.
So
did you wear that stupid hat?
I don't think
you know what, Brent? I thought we were past the hat, but I see we're coming back around.
For a while, one of our sponsors is our buddy that owns a local dispensary, Pot of Gold. So Adam was rocking a lot of Pot of Gold merch early on, so it was definitely a Pot of Gold hat. But anyways,
I'm just giving it to you just because
I know it's great. I love it. No,
normally I'm the one getting razzed because I am the fangirl, and Adam normally plays it cool. Because I'm kind of like Jeff Ross, where I just live in this studio and I live and breathe hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like the celebrities that come on and
if you could wear your Stefan Quintel jersey next show, that'd be fantastic.
I do not have a Stefan Quintel jersey, unfortunately.
He got mad at me one time. I'll never forget. So I'm stupid and I'm young and I'm like 23, whatever. Ended up being the youngest ever national reporter in TSN history. But
no brag.
The year before.
That's big. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to, in case they're watching the show, I just want them to know what they messed up. So they don't give a shit. So anyway, they had gone down to 5D early on in a game, and I'm back at the rink the next day. I don't know. I think it's a playoff game. I can't remember the exact time. And so at the time when you're at Global, you shoot your own stuff and hold the mic. So I just remember going, hey, Steph, like, was it tough playing with 5D? And as I look back at it now, I'm like, you're such an idiot. Like, do you know how many times guys play with 5D? Maybe 4 some nights. They were like the third pairing doesn't get a lot of ice time. And he just looked at me like, are you really stupid? Or like, is that a real question? I'm like, I felt this big. And then he answered it. And then I just gotta go, Q. Talk to you later.
You gotta go to the bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah, we're done here. Yeah, I do it. So anyway, that was always my Stefan Quintel story.
You know what, though? That's not as bad. Worst question I think anybody could ever ask, and it's asked every year in the Stanley Cup final. How do you feel right now after you just won the Stanley Cup?
Hold on. Okay, wait a second. This is a pet peeve of mine.
Oh, I love it.
So what are you supposed to ask them the moment they win the Stanley Cup?
In my opinion, you should give the players, Not that
Nope.
reporters should not.
What's
be on
the
ice.
question? Just no. I just want to know the question.
My question, and again, maybe it's more of a
Just
fan,
get to the question.
If it's a fan question more than probably a broadcast question, I just want to clarify that because I'm more of a fan than I am any kind of industrial training. I would be asking, like, who would you like to thank? Who got you to this moment?
Oh my God. Sorry, that was dramatic. Listen.
No, I like it.
Nobody at home gives a shit who they got to thank. They want to know what it feels like at that moment, because that moment is the moment every fan is wishing they could do right then and there. They are dying to hoist that Stanley Cup.
But has anybody said anything other than a great feeling?
Yes, that moment is anything you want to know about is emotion. And by the way, every interview I've ever done was about emotion, unless the guy just didn't have any desire to talk. And then you go like, well, what do you think of the power play? But I'm telling you right now, every key question is just emotion, because everybody watching at home goes, that guy sucks. I could do that. Give me $5 million. I could go play and do that. I'd take 500 grand. The moment they hoist the Stanley Cup, you're like, I wish I was there. So yeah, that question of how do you feel is the exact question you have to ask at that moment.
Now, should broadcasts be allowed to let them swear for that time? Because a lot of the time
it's not about us.
No. But I'm just saying, like, they get beeped out. Like, like
you know why that is?
No, is it because it's so loud in there?
BBC.
No. Because Jimmy at home or Marianne, who's in their living room, who's 97 years old, hears a bad word. They write a letter to the CRTC. And if you write one letter to the CRTC complaining, they have to investigate it. It has to be investigated. Yes. So so networks don't want to go through it. They just don't want to have the hassle. Yeah. So they try to mitigate as best as possible the language. That's why. So I'm telling you right now, any podcast you do from here on out, your questions should be about emotion. Tell me about the time you scored your first goal. I don't give a shit if it's a wrister. I don't care I want to know what it was like for you to score that goal. Because guess what? I'm never going to live that moment.
I mean, I'm still holding out hope.
You'll have gray hair before you get to play.
Yes. I think it's the first time someone's actually given us we've said that before, and some guys are like, oh, whatever. You're like the first guy that we say that, like, what, like that question, you actually get not heated. So, you actually give a good reason.
There's two, and there's one other side to that. And it's the same thing with in-game interviews, which I despise with a passion.
Yep. 100%.
There's nothing good about them. Every once in a while. So if it was a really crappy game, I'm asking for Mark Borowiecki or Bobby Ryan, Chris Neal, guys who will give me an answer no matter what. So, but for them to come off the ice, so here's just scenarios. Bobby Ryan has just dumped the puck in and gone -1 because they went back the other way and scored. But I'm at the bottom. I'm in behind the stands. I'm standing in the locker room, basically. I don't see all of this. So when they come off the ice, they may have just gotten yelled at from the coach. They may be thinking about the other guy across the ice who they want to take his head off. They may be thinking about, I haven't scored in 6 games. They're not thinking about, how am I going to answer this question so Brent's really happy with it. They just want to get through 45 seconds and be gone. And so that's what we as reporters deal with. And so we have to ask them simple, dumbed down questions so that they just answer them, unless it's a different person. Like, I could joke with Mark Borowiecki in a heartbeat when he came off the ice, or Bobby, or there's a long list, but for the most part, guys they're not paying any attention to you. They don't want to do it. They just want to get in the locker room, and you don't know what mental headspace they're in. So you have to, and by the way, you have to stick to in-game questions unless they know it's coming. So go back and watch the Bobby Ryan interview I do after the game when he scores the hat trick against Vancouver, and wait for me to ask, well, what do you think of scoring that third goal? I don't give a shit. I want to hear what he felt like at the moment when his head is down and he's welling up because of the reaction from the fans. And that's exactly what you want to hear too.
Yeah. 100%.
So 100% agree with that one. So my question, just a follow-up question to the Stanley Cup one that I didn't know meant that much to you. So I apologize. because I want to be on your good side.
Well, we're on it. It's a thin line right now. Okay. So
Fair enough.
Between the hat and the Stanley Cup question.
I don't know how much more I can take.
We're gonna
here.
get off this interview, and then it's like I'm gonna be blocked and unfriended from Brent on Facebook.
Luckily, you don't have my cell phone number.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you're lucky. You didn't give me that yet, but I'm not done with that. That was you threw me under the bus, and I don't want
Anyway, sorry,
to
go
think
on.
I'm a clinger. So my follow-up question to the Stanley Cup before I finish the Roenick, because I don't want people to be like, "Fuck, not giving this guy my number." I guess the only reason I say that answer or that question bothers me is because until Jokic in the NBA Finals, I have never seen anybody give an answer other than feels great right now.
That's not true, though.
And again, I obviously haven't seen every single interview ever done, but that's the only one that sticks out in my mind where I'm just like, this. So
you think them thanking mom and dad or grandma and grandpa for driving them to the rink is more important than them to tell you, this is the best feeling I've ever had playing hockey in my entire life, and I can't get enough of this right now.
I think I did a bad job explaining what I was looking for. So what sticks out to me as an emotion or a maybe thank you isn't the right word, but I'm sure you'll know what I mean as soon as I give the example. But TJ Oshie, after winning the cup with Washington, and his dad going through cancer, and it being the like that. For me, that's the kind of interview that I'm looking for in that, where it's just like, there always
we all are
good.
Yeah, but again,
we all are. I would give my left arm to get that every game.
Yeah.
But you don't get that, and so without question, TJ Oshie is a whole different world, though. Same with Bobby Ryan, right? Which is what makes those interviews so special.
Yeah.
But in that moment, for Mark Stone, who got traded to Vegas, and he's about to take the Stanley Cup. It's just about that dream.
Yeah.
It's the dream they had that, oh my God, like this thing is right here and I'm about to have my name put on it forever. That's what you want to hear. I get the TJ Oshie stuff, but those interviews or responses and questions are so far and few between, mostly because we don't know them publicly. Our job is to find them out, which is why I love Kyle Bukauskas. And I'm jealous because I think he's the best in-game reporter there is in any sport today.
That's a big compliment.
He also lives down the street from me, not too far, and I watched his dog last weekend, so he owes me a lot. However,
great hair on that guy.
Great hair, great hair. It's funny. He goes to one salon, and I go to I call it. It's not a salon, whatever. It sounds cool. About the two brothers actually cut our hair. So he has one brother and I have Frank cutting my, anyway, long story. Actually, it's not. I just told it really quickly. Anyway, back to the questions. Those, to find out that stuff when you don't have access to the room like you used to, like you used to be able to go in and sit down and everybody just be sitting around doing nothing and shooting the shit. They're gone now. It's empty. So to find that information out is like gold. And it's hard to get to. So the TJ Oshie, I totally understand. Same thing with Bobby. And I did Saku Koivu's return game to Montreal when he back from cancer. It's still one of the highlights of my career because the building was full of emotion, which is what this is all about. Yeah. So that's where you just try to get to. You can't always get there, but I don't know the next time I ask the question to someone else, am I going to get the same response? Or maybe he's going to go, Brent, like, you have no idea. I almost quit hockey last year. And this, like, you don't know what they're going to say. So you have to ask it.
You know what, Brent? I didn't think that anybody was ever going to be able to change my mind on that. And you can ask my wife and Adam. I have a very stubborn person.
Yes.
So on paper, you don't know. Sorry, on paper, it is a dumb question. There is I don't argue that whatsoever. But it's all there is. That's the one thing you want to know. So you have to ask it because you don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
So if he skated away and you're like, why didn't you ask me about winning the Stanley Cup? I'd be like, well, because everybody at home thinks it's stupid.
Yeah.
I'm going to say words that my wife has never heard. Brent, you are right.
Thank you. That one's as someone who's done it for 25 years, I've asked enough of those questions.
And you know what? You asked at the beginning of the show, favorite episode, and you
don't make me blush.
No, Brent, hand on Bible, Brent. I'm not really religious. We'll pick something.
I was gonna say, do you want to burn tonight?
Yeah,
just do it on the Mike Fisher jersey.
They're blank. They're not even Mike Fisher.
Never mind.
I have a Carey.
He didn't get
Carey Price.
No,
get the joke.
You missed the joke.
Oh, Jesus, Murphy. Yes. My God. I got Jesus.
Thank you very much.
I'm not used to
that'll
this.
all be edited
Adam
out
is the
now.
butt of the joke. And all right, well, Brent.
Yeah, there we go.
You have taken.
Oh, that was good.
you have challenged my beliefs as a amateur reporter, and as a hockey fan, and I don't think, like I said, anybody would have ever been able to change that opinion of mine. That has been, as you said, a pet peeve of yours.
Yep.
It was a pet peeve of mine on the other side. If I was ever in that position, I would never ask that question, because you're getting a standard answer. Nobody is ever going to be like, I won the Stanley Cup, I hate my life. And that's why I'm always like, overrated question. Like, let's just move on. But you explaining it and being so passionate about it, I am now on Team Brent.
So here's one more. Erik Karlsson comes back to Ottawa.
You're talking hypothetical in...
No, sorry. He comes back with San Jose.
Okay.
Makes his very first appearance back in Ottawa, where he wins 2 Norris trophies, and he's arguably the best player ever in franchise history. Yeah,
okay.
I don't even think that's a debate.
Fair.
What's your first question to Erik Karlsson?
How does it feel to be back in Ottawa?
Hello.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel going in to play this game?
Set me up.
Like, you could word it. Are you nervous? Excitement? What is it like for you to go into this game? But it's the same question.
Yeah.
It's not. You're not gonna
I just want to know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't want to know what players were thinking, you wouldn't have a podcast and ask them questions. Because at the end of the day, you just want to know what they're thinking.
You have taught me more in the last 40 minutes than I had learned in 6 years in between high school and college. I didn't think that was possible, because I have ADHD and my brain is like just very short circuits, very in and out. But you have managed to do something my wife hasn't been able to do. You changed my mind. You got me to admit that you were right.
It's a gift.
Like, I just, like, you need to write a book. Like, if you haven't thought about starting a cult, Brent, you are very persuasive.
Wally's World. Yeah.
Yeah, Wally's World. Trademark that right now. And I will be the first donor. But we will move on from our off topic. And the last thing I want to say about Jeremy Roenick, I only made it through the first reminder text at the 1 week, and he said, "Why the fuck are you texting me?" And I didn't have the heart to argue with him and be all like, "Well, you told me to remind you a week, 3 days, and 1 day out."
Yeah,
and I was nervous. Like, I was actually like, probably went to the bathroom like 4 or 5 times before getting on that interview with him. I'm like, this guy is going to be an ass. He's going to be like, fuck you, like, whatever. Like, and he was so nice.
So my favorite
never
Jeremy
brought that
Roenick
up.
story is Ian Mendez and I again in Philadelphia, playoffs, Ottawa, Philly. And Philly just got pumped, if I'm not mistaken. They lost. I just can't remember how badly it was. And Jeremy Roenick has been in the corner answering questions for 10 minutes. But when you're only one reporter, you have to cover both rooms. So for us, we've got to get Ottawa sound without question. Ottawa interviews. Excuse me. So we got to start in Ottawa. And then you hope to get to Philly with somebody still kicking around. So JR and he's bleeding somewhere. I can't remember if he's got a black eye or if his mouth's bleeding, whatever. He just looks like he's been through hell. So, by the way, players don't like to talk when they've lost, just as a little tip.
I've noticed that.
Yeah. So Ian and I look at each other and we're like, do we? So we hustle over to JR. He's just getting up. I still think we're pretty young. We're in our 30s, but we still feel pretty young. JR, listen, I know do you mind? I have a couple of questions. And he goes into this. I just spent 5 fucking minutes answering every question for everybody. And now all of a sudden you two guys show up. He's like, sure. What do you need? So that's JR.
That's that pretty much.
Anybody that didn't see our JR episode, that is 1000%.
Yeah.
JR.
Yeah.
You
Great
could have probably
storytelling.
just did that expression without telling me who that was, and I would have guessed JR.
Yeah, that was good.
But we'll move on to the couple current Sens questions we had, and they're all opinion questions. There is no right answer, Brent, but being our Sens expert, and I'm hoping that you're having a good enough time that you would come back on as our repeated Sens
Part
expert.
2?
Yeah. I'll just cut to the chase.
Yep. Hit me. What's the question?
Craig Button, former co-worker of yours, comes out and says Sens are a playoff team next season right off the bat. I agree that they have the talent, but here's my stipulation to all my buddies. And you would think, we're an hour up the road in Cornwall. We would be outnumbered Sens fans. That is not the case. I have 2 friends that are Sens fans, but they are very loud and very opinionated when it comes to the Ottawa Senators, very passionate.
Nick being one of them.
Nick,
Well,
I don't
no,
want to
I'm
upset
not- I'm
Nick,
not-
so I'm a little nervous.
I'm not counting Nick because he's Ottawa, bleeds Ottawa, absolutely everything. He loves the city of Ottawa. I'm talking just Cornwall guys that feed me.
I love that building, by the way. Way off topic. My kid plays. He played in the U18 league, so he played a couple games in Cornwall this year. Love that building.
The Civic?
Yeah.
It's a great barn, underrated barn for sure, especially when they added our 100 section, the red seats.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I take pictures because I don't like hearing from parents. So I started just to stand in the corner by myself, and then eventually I just started taking pictures. The lighting is phenomenal in there. I love that building.
Like
Way
so
off
like
topic.
taking pictures of the game
all right.
or just like selfies.
No, of the game.
Okay.
I take about
Just-
3,000 pictures a game, somewhere in there.
Wow.
Wow.
What phone are you rocking that you can do that?
No, it's a camera.
Okay.
But-
okay. I
but
was gonna say
I will say I'm the worst officials in the league, bar none, in Cornwall, would not ever move out of my way. You can tell I'm the only guy around the glass, and every time he's got to stand right there. I remember just looking at him like, what do you? So I would move over 2 panes of glass, and he would stand over there. I'm like, I understand that it's your game, and me standing in the corner trying to get pictures of little Jimmy and little Johnny don't really matter. But come on, let's work together here a little.
I will not argue that. I played limited hockey that traveled. Always hated playing on home ice. Just absolutely awful. And it had nothing to do with the ice. It had to do with the officiating. It just seemed like it was an episode of
different.
Shoresy every
it's
time we
just
were out
different.
there.
Anyway, sorry. So Craig Button said they're a playoff team. I got you. Okay. So
Yeah. My opinion is they are a playoff team any other division in hockey, but Boston isn't on the descent enough right now. They're getting older.
All
They
right,
are going to descend.
let me just all right. I get it. Let me just I'm gonna cut you off and answer the question.
I love it.
So
Shut me
here's
up. He doesn't.
here's the problem
2.
though, is if I say they're not a playoff team, and if this has happened before, like whenever I say something about the team that's not positive, like you just hate the Sens, you just hate them. Listen, being objective doesn't mean I hate the team. I wouldn't do a podcast all the time on the team if I hated them. It doesn't make sense to me.
It would be
I
very
know I'm-
sadistic of you.
I know I'm not the brightest bulb on the chandelier, but I'm not going to subject myself to doing this. I think there's a lot of work to be done for them to be a playoff team. One, as you brought up, there's a lot of teams that need to falter for them to just magically appear in the postseason. Two, don't give me this. They were 6 points out of last year, so they would have been in if Alex DeBrincat scored a goal or Cam Talbot made a save. That's not reality. The reality is you didn't pass enough teams to get into the postseason. It doesn't matter if it's 6 points or 72 points. Don't tell me you're on the cusp because I don't know what's going to happen this year. Are you a better team today than you were 3 days ago when Alex DeBrincat was part of your organization? Are you a better team today? Maybe. I don't like your bottom pairing D, I should say. I don't think they're good enough. I don't think they're physical enough on the back end in that 3 spot when you go on the road and suddenly you're matched up against the best forward lines and you get exposed. And I know you may play 10 or 12 minutes, but the reality is you've got to play better. They need a bigger, stronger blue line. That's not an intimidating blue line whatsoever. So that's number one for me. And by the way, if you don't have a good D, you don't win in the postseason. I think we've proven that time and time again. Number two, Jonas Korpisalo's played 39 games, the most he's ever played in his career. Is he ready to play 50? I don't know. And don't say like 50 is not a big number from 39. Maybe not, but I don't know. I don't know you don't have a chart that says if he can play 50 games. You just don't have it. Anton Forsberg, as we discussed on the show, was coming back from double MCL surgery. I know it's not ACL surgery, but he just had double surgery on his knees. Is he going to be ready to go? Is there going to be any setbacks throughout the season? I don't know. So that's a question mark for me. And up front, you have scoring. You finished 12th in the league last year in scoring. It's not an issue. Alex DeBrincat, to me, just move on. I don't care. I don't know if your bottom 6 is good enough on the road when you can't protect them all the time to compete. And that's all I want to see. I just want to see them shored up. I think your top 6 can compete with anybody on any given night. So, like I said, you can score goals. I just need you defensively to figure out how to play in your own end without it seeming like a Chinese fire drill.
I had 2 follow-up questions. You answered both of them without me having to ask them. The one was the Korpisalo. The other was the DeBrincat trade. So kudos to you for reading my mind. Add that to the list of things you can do.
But here's one more thing, though, on the postseason. And it's not because I don't like the team. I think that they're a very capable team of being in the postseason. But 2 points. One, you got to do it all season long, and you don't know if there's going to be injuries. Are you deep enough to cover those injuries? Are you able to find plug-and-play players? You don't have the Nick Pauls and Connor Browns where you can move up and down your lineup. That's an issue. I don't think you're deep enough. That doesn't mean I hate your hockey team. The other thing, though, is I don't want you just to get into the playoffs. That's I'm not there anymore.
Yeah.
I've covered every playoff game of this organization since 1998, which only means I've missed, I think, 6 games or whatever it was. A few more. I've seen them all. I'm jealous and I miss those days. I don't want you just to win a playoff game. I want you to win in the post and succeed. Well, people are like, wow, you got to get there first. Fuck. Other teams can get into the playoffs and win. Why can't Ottawa? We just got to get, okay. I get that you just want to get in the postseason, but I'm past that. I want you to win a round. And by the way, Thomas Chabot, I think, is going into his 9th season. What is this? 5 seasons now for Brady Tkachuk. If you keep screwing around, you end up like Toronto, where everybody's like, the window's closing, the window's closing. This is the best group of young, talented players outside of 98 to 2002 with the Hosas and Havlats and Daniel Alfredson when they had the best right side in hockey. Mike Fisher, Alexei Yashin. They had had a ton of talent up front, and they should have won a Stanley Cup. Let's not forget that. And not to mention their blue line. Don't mess this up because you can't figure out a way to find the right personnel to put in your lineup.
So pivoting, because I have to pivot now that you asked the questions I was going to ask. Do you have a name that's, whether it's still free agency or
Tom Wilson?
Tom Wilson, okay.
I want a player like Tom Wilson. You can give me Travis Konechny. He's not going to get traded unless you give up. You're going to have to do like Shane Pinto or Ridley Gregg. Like people going, oh, just give him Brandstrom and a first with Lassie Thompson and Matthew Joseph and some other schmuck. That's not gonna do anything for Philadelphia.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah.
So, you like to get those players, you have to give up significant pieces. Do they? But I want. Could you imagine Brady Tkachuk is the first over the boards, and then suddenly Tom Wilson's coming right at you next? Like that left side of being able to physically punish D is huge, and it's the intimidation factor. There's lots of things involved. I really want to see someone like that. That's a dirty, gritty, grindy player to be put in that second line left winger spot.
So should Otto have done what Toronto did and went out and got a guy like Reeves and Bertuzzi? Do you think that could have maybe not Reeves,
Yeah.
Bertuzzi, not Reeves?
Well,
like,
okay,
I mean,
but hold on there. Look at them. All of a sudden, in the Atlantic Division, is Ryan Reeves and Milan Lucic, and so you're just going to. And people are like, well, they're only going to play 4 minutes a night, and Milan Lucic is past his okay, but they're still on the ice, and Tim Stützle might see him at some point. Well, Brady Tkachuk could fight him. Okay, so you want Brady Tkachuk to be in the box for 5 minutes a night?
Your captain.
Like I get it. He can handle his own. That's fine. The Jacob Trouba fight at center ice at Madison Square Garden, one of the best moments in Sens history, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But that's not who you want to handle that stuff. But you've now, there's an arms race suddenly in the Atlantic Division, and you've got to answer that. And Tyler Jeannot is in Tampa. There's a ton of, I don't know where this all of a sudden came from and how it built up, because I thought we were moving down away from that. So Zach McEwen is going to have to be that guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know Zach from a hole in the wall. I do know he's fought and clawed his way to get to the National Hockey League. And so he will fight and claw for his teammates without question. But he's got to be the answer. Like I'm shocked at how all of a sudden everybody loaded up with tough guys in the Atlantic Division. I wanted Tyler Bertuzzi. If you would have given me Tyler Bertuzzi while he's not as smash mouthy as Tom Wilson or whatever, I'm okay with him on the second line. But you didn't get him either. You've got to find someone. I don't need you to score 30 goals. I don't even need you really to score 20. I just need you to be a miserable son of a bitch to play against.
Yeah, the 12 goals and a great penalty kill. That's all I need from you.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask another question, and I mean, I'm sure talk to these guys at some point on a regular basis, and I know this is another speculatory thing, sitting around shooting the shit with the guys, fantasy hockey, and I'm interested to hear what you take because you probably know these guys. But do you believe that the current Sens management, DJ Smith included, are the ones that are steering the right ship? Do you think it would be best to clean slate? Like, my opinion is, how much more time do you need to, like, I feel like they're so much closer than when Pierre Dorian inherited the team, but I feel like it's still pieces away. And how much more leash do you need? And at one point, like, is it just Dorian, or is DJ Smith reached the end of his rope of what he can get out of the guys?
Okay, good question. So I would like to see DJ Smith make a move among his assistant coaches, namely Jack Campuano, who's the D coach, and fix whatever is wrong with why this team can't play in its own end. That's number one.
That was the name I had circled as could leave.
So DJ Smith to me is National Hockey League coaches are not typically X's and O's guys for the most part. They are just, I'll call them motivators for lack of a better term, but they manage the game. It's all about managing people, managing the game, figuring out that stuff. Systems, not so much. I want to see them figure out the defensive system. That's number one. I've had countless conversations with guys off camera about just former players. I don't want to say anybody currently that just don't understand what's happening defensively. So that's number one. So I'm okay with DJ staying. I think he has the ear of the players. I think they listen. Now, if he got moved out, I wouldn't be shocked or surprised or any of that stuff, because based on the record, but I think he still has what it takes to lead this group. Now, the GM question is a tough one for me because people think it's personal. I just know a lot of stuff behind the scenes of how people in that organization are treated. And so
I was going to say, I know a few people that have worked for the organization, and maybe, I mean, I'll let you finish, but I have not heard great things about treatment.
It's pretty bad. And it's not fair of what's transpired. So I'll get some heat and people like, you made this personal because Eugene Melnick and you didn't get along. That's fine. But I can tell you players, I have one player and he won't do it. During his exit interview, it was over Zoom, wrote 8 pages to Pierre. And so maybe it's 6. I don't know. And Pierre typically was like, okay, that's like very short conversations. Like Bobby Ryan's was like 35 seconds and done. And that player said, you are going to listen to what I have to say. And then went on and told him exactly his thoughts. Now, this player, by the way, is a stand-up, one of the best people I've ever met in my entire life, people. So I've had other players who left the organization, and typically when they leave, they're like, I just want to thank so-and-so and so-and-so and DJ Smith or whoever, Guy Boucher. They called back to say, I want to make sure I thank Brian Murray because I'm not thanking the other guy, which I've never had before. So I want a change. It just needs to be a change in that position. What he has done to certain people and how he's treated them is out of control. And so that's the problem I have.
I mean, I have not heard extent, and then like the people that I know that have worked with the Sens organization were obviously not players. It was, off ice personnel. And it wasn't great treatment in the way he, spoke to people and that kind of stuff. But like, I just feel in general, like when it comes to sports, and again, I've only worked baseball front office stuff. Everything is based on relationships in your first impression. And the way people think of you and talk about you is what matters most when it comes to selling somebody on joining your family, your team, your whatever you want to sell it to them as. And I don't think that's done a great job. I don't want to speculate or, if it was somebody else at the helm, Alex DeBrincat wants to stay, or, Mark Stone never leaves, or Erik Karlsson's never traded. Like, I don't want to, we can go down that rabbit hole and, you know what I mean? And play the what ifs, because there's a lot of them.
Okay. Name me one other organization that has as many issues coming off the ice as the Ottawa Senators. And so I'm not trying to be an idiot or try. Name me one other organization, and it always leads back to the same individual.
I can't think of another that comes back to a certain individual. I think the only other National Hockey League team that I would say there's a running farce about would be the Arizona Coyotes with all the off-ice antics. But again, that's not to one person. That is just so much like it's. But that's not.
That's not how they're run on the ice, for lack of a better term, right? That seems to be more of a front office, like we're playing in a arena that seats 5,000 people. That's not on the general manager, who I think, I feel like Bill Armstrong has suddenly started to put together, or at least cultivate, getting a turnaround started with this organization. And I don't know that they've had it before.
I didn't have high hopes, but
yes, I'm same here. But I now start to see they're turning that corner, perhaps. And they are a mess. They were a mess, but it seemed to be more of no fans or what. It just seemed to be higher up front office stuff. So for me, there just never seems to be a shortage of issues with this organization. And I only go to one person. So when people go, Brent doesn't like the Ottawa Senators, it comes down to Pierre Dorion. And eventually people will hear the stories. But as for this group on the ice,
Yeah.
I think they're a fantastic bunch of individuals.
Yeah, and I feel like it shows in it.
DJ Smith, by the way,
Yeah.
one of the first people to text me when I got let go. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that because you'll probably get fucking yelled at. But
Why?
he was one of the
Like,
first.
for being a nice guy. Like, he doesn't fucking work for TSN.
No. He works for the Sens organization, which aren't allowed to talk to me.
You're not allowed to talk to them.
Have you seen DJ Smith on my show? No.
Wow.
That is
Wow. I didn't know.
I did not know that part of the story.
I didn't know it worked like that.
That is, I mean, I've been trying to drop less swearing. That's fucked up. And that really,
there's lots of stories, which I didn't plan to get into, but whatever.
Well, no, and like we said, we stopped kind of planning, but that's really
so like people have no idea of how this organization is being handled at the moment.
Wow.
That
really, I mean, again, just learning this right now, that really pisses me off for you. And I mean, maybe you are past that, but that is a fresh wax strip torn off for me because I hold you in high regard in what you've done and what I feel you've done to grow the game in Ottawa, which for certain periods of time maybe did not look like a passionate hockey market.
It's a great hockey market.
Yeah.
But I feel like they've gotten that negative rep, whether it's Eugene Melnyk, Pierre Dorian, whenever Melnyk shut down like the parts of the 300, like it looked bad for a while.
So do you want to support that? If you're a fan and you give your money to go watch that, like you don't get anything back except an emotional attachment, which is what we always come back to about questions, because all of sports is all about emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you don't get anything back. The only thing you get back is the jersey you paid for. So do you want to support something that makes you feel unhappy or miserable, or for whatever reason, you don't feel good about it? No, the business community stayed away. That should tell you something.
Yeah.
The way that Cyril Leader was handled, all that stuff, all the way that Alfie was handled. I got tons of stories, but the point is you can't treat people that way and then just expect them to show up.
Yeah.
So it's getting better. And Michael Andlauer will be a totally different world. Great days ahead. Do
you think, and again, this was my opinion, and I had this conversation a few weeks ago with a Sens fan of mine, which
love Sens, Nick.
It's not Nick. It's not Nick again.
It'll be Nick. Anytime you mention Sens fan from now on, it's Nick. Sens in 7.
If you had not said anything else for the rest of this podcast except for Sens in 7, I would have been okay with it.
I should have done it in the first minute, man.
Yeah. I feel like as soon as Pierre Dorian's gone, Daniel Alfredson is president of hockey operations.
I don't think that's true.
You don't think so? Like, I think Alfie is back as soon as they clean up Pierre Dorian out of there, get his buddies out. Like, That may be. Alfie's back. I can see Phillips kind of maybe stepping in some hockey development stuff. Like, no, you don't think so?
No, Philly will stay on the business side. I feel pretty confident in that he'll be like VP of business, or however they structure it or name it, but he will be on the business side.
I meant just in some kind of like coming back to the organization.
So they're still working on bringing Alfie back, and they understand that he needs to be back and but he needs a role. He needs a significant role where he feels he's having some input. So what that is, I don't know. If Cyril Leader were to come back and become CEO or whatever, I don't know that Alfie is president of hockey ops. I don't know if he's now becomes special advisor to the president, to the owner or whatever it is. But I don't disagree that Alfie's back. I just don't know the role he gets.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. He's on the ice now. So as a Tim Stutzla, so Daniel Alfredson was the very first guest we had on the very first show I did with Mark Mathot. Tim Stutzla watched that show and said, I would like to meet Alfie because I don't know anything about him. But at the time, Alfie wasn't around. So the only way he understood about Daniel Alfredson was on a podcast.
Wow.
So that's the kind, like, you need to have those players. In Detroit, they in their locker room, they switch them out, but they put up former players. They put them in stalls. So in what it'll be empty, but it'll say Gordie Howe, or it'll say Sergei Fedorov or Ted Lidstrom, whatever. But that's because they have that nostalgia around them. Ottawa needs to build that. And so to have Alfie now back on the ice with these guys is huge. They've got Sean Donovan and Jesse Winchester who do a great job of player development, but you can't replicate having a Hall of Famer on the ice with you playing keep away or in the locker room. And that's why I wish Jason Spezza would come back, but maybe down the road we'll get to that. But
yeah, and I mean, I could definitely see him learning under Dubas and now being an assistant GM. Eventually, he's going to want to be the guy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can see that being a natural fit down the road. Maybe reunite the pizza line. Maybe get a Heater in at some point.
Heater is
just a dentist ad, and he has the one chiclet still out. I don't know.
I think he's in a cave in a mountain. He just does not want to.
Yeah, I have not heard of that guy.
I've tried different ways to get him on the show. Anyway, we'll see. It's an ongoing process. He's not very keen on it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't strike me as a big personality.
So he's great. Like, I found he was extremely entertaining. He put up some dumb questions that I would ask. But he just kind of wants to now be left alone. Like Clark MacArthur doesn't want to be interviewed. Dion Phaneuf, like Meth and Bobby are both very close with these guys. And so they'll be texting all night long. And then Bobby will go like, want to come on the show? And then it's radio silence, ghosting. So
that makes me feel better because Dion Phaneuf was one of my favorite players. Like, no matter what team he went for, even though I'm a Montreal fan, loved him in Calgary, loved him in Toronto, loved him in Ottawa, LA. And so I'm barking up the wrong tree. That's good to know.
He's a really good guy. Does a lot of work for the Special Olympics and PEI. He's like, hey, if you come to PEI, come hang out. And I'm like, I'm not going to bother Dion Phaneuf when I go to PEI. But point is, I hung out with his dad at the airport one time, covered him at the World Championships when I accidentally called him Luke Shen during an interview because I just finished with Luke. And then Dion comes over and I just like, hey, thanks very much, Luke. And he just gave you that look. And I'm like, oh, man, this is going to be the end of me right about now. But no, he was good. Like, he's very good. I got lots of time and stories to tell about Dion Phaneuf, but he just doesn't want to do it right. He doesn't want to do the show.
And you know what? That's fair.
I'm still, you know what? I'm bitter. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm still bitter about
it. That OCD
I might smile. I'm pissed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just about Dion?
No, all of them.
Okay. That's
like,
you know what? I'm just, and again, you're in a different situation. I am thankful for anybody who is willing. If my neighbor said, I will come talk to you for an hour about hockey on your podcast, thank you very much, Larry. I don't know what kind of quality content we're going to get from it, but I am so humbled anytime somebody's willing to give me their time.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Like
that. Time is all we've got, right? So for anybody to come on my show and talk, absolutely. But I'm like, damn it, like Clark, fans just want to see what you're doing. They want to hear about old stories and all that stuff. And so I get it. Like I could probably give you a list of 20 guys, coaches and players who's like, I'm not coming on your show. And they're very nice about it. They're like, hey, I'm having a great time. But you're not getting me to comment. So like Clark MacArthur golfs nearly every day, I think, with Michael Jordan. I just want you to tell me what that's like.
You know what? We got that inside scoop because JR golfed with Michael Jordan. He gave us a whole Michael Jordan story.
Oh yeah, sure. I forgot about that.
Yes. So, and there was somebody one day, I can't remember who it was now. I wish I knew, but they went down and ended up playing with Clark and Michael. I think, as I use first names, like we're all buddies.
You are for sure.
Yeah.
And I think they took pictures and posted them on like Instagram or whatever, and it did not go over well.
Really?
They're like,
Oh,
no, we don't discuss what we do here. This is a little bubble.
If
So
you would have ever told me Clark MacArthur is buddies with MJ, not the two that I would have paired up together.
no,
Like,
no,
where do
but,
these
but
boys?
tight.
Where do they even cross paths? Like that.
Same
that
golf
to
club.
me is
Oh, same golf club. Yeah, that makes sense. Probably private golf club, I'm assuming then.
Yeah, it's in Florida, but yeah, and Clark
Okay.
used to belong to outside of Rochester. Is that Oak Hills? One of them hosts.
I couldn't remember where Big Rig was in Ottawa. You're barking
Yeah,
up the
it's a
wrong
good point by
tree
you.
for geography.
So, like I know Clark was big into golf, and so I think that's how they met. But yeah,
That's
like
crazy,
I'm just like Clark, just come on and just shoot the shit. But
Yeah.
anyway, there's a few of those guys. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I get you.
Well then.
Well, speaking of the gift of time, I won't take up any more years. This is probably the longest unedited episode that we've had to do. I mean, I've definitely ran myself correcting my mistakes for like I said, about 4 hours. We're not at that mark yet. But I'm just looking down at the time, and my wife texted me, "You got to take your sleeping pills, or you're going to snore."
She's too good to you. She is a saint.
She is a saint.
Yeah.
Yes.
Her and my mother have bonded so much over.
Oh, you're screwed now.
I am so screwed. But over the daily reminders that go into being my spouse. And again, not because I don't care, because I care deeply. I just can something just walks by my house. It can be a squirrel, a stray cat, and I am distracted and I forget what I was doing, and I move on to something else, normally podcast or hockey related, and it's my demise every single day.
Like to have a kid.
I don't know if they're going to allow me to procreate with my one track mind. Somebody will text me, or a breaking trade will happen.
You're done for the day.
Well, the kid will probably be still on the roof in the carrier, and I'm on the phone with you or somebody else. We need to make notes for this. We need to bring this up on the next episode, and I'm going to get a call from CAS.
Yeah.
I feel like there needs to be like a questionnaire quiz on if you are capable to be a parent or not before you're allowed to have kids.
That would be a Mike Fisher hot take.
Like name me one thing more important than trying to raise a child. Everything else you have to take a boater test, you got to take a driver's test, you got to take a test for everything.
You have to get a goddamn license to build a shed in your backyard.
Yeah.
You want to have 17 kids? You have at her.
Yeah. And that questionnaire should be locally in Cornwall, but let's not get to that.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not sure if, people always say we're known for our pizza, but you do not know our teen pregnancy and stray cat population.
We were like top of Canada at one point for teen pregnancy, I'm pretty sure. Like, not even, no jokes aside, like I think we actually were.
It's scary. But you know what?
They all have new iPhones.
High five.
Oh.
Neither of us are on that list.
No, well,
there you go.
I guess so. Yeah.
Congrats, guys.
Well,
Thanks.
I do have a kid, but I'm not 16
You're
anymore.
30.
Yeah.
But again, all that to say, thank you so much for your time. Love what you're doing. Love what you did with Meth. Love what you're doing with Bobby and Jason. And I know I'm gonna have at least one jealous Sens fan that I'm gonna have texting me, "Oh my God, how's Brent? Did he talk about me?" And I'm gonna be like, "We actually did talk about you."
But when you talk to him, just go, he's never heard of you. You got to at least set it up properly.
Yeah. You tell me, you got to watch the whole episode to see if he actually knows who you are.
So what I'm thinking,
we talked about you, but he had a blank stare.
What we might do, and it won't be tonight because it's already 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
But I will be on the phone with Nick. I'll do it on speaker so that you can record on your phone, so that we can get his live reaction. He has never heard of Sens and Seven.
Perfect.
I think he said like you liked his maybe like his comment or something on Instagram, or I don't know if it was Twitter or Facebook. But I'll be like, yeah, like Brent was saying, he has like a secretary that handles his socials. Like he really,
it's his wife.
I brought it up, and he has no idea who the hell you are, man. Like he looked at me as if I had 3 heads, and then he will listen to
He's
this.
Like, what a stupid Twitter handle it was.
Yeah.
That's great.
Poor guy just loves his Ottawa Senators, his coming in hot.
Love it.
But thank you. It's honestly, it has been an honor, and you have taken over top spot. I may owe some part of my body to Cabby if I lose our bet.
Oh yeah.
I have a bet with Cabby that Cole Caulfield will score more goals than Mitch Marner. Yeah. So if Marner scores more goals than Caulfield, I have to get a Leafs tattoo. Cabby's choosing. Cabby's choosing of where in which Leafs tattoo.
Does your wife know? Like, do you? Oh, but you already have tattoos, so it's not that.
I do, and she's also aware of my poor decision making. So
not picking her, notwithstanding.
No. Except that one was a rare win in the Joel column.
Just okay. Now, I just want to point out one thing that I think is important when it comes to Cole Caulfield and Mitch Marner.
Yeah,
Mitch Marner has Austin Matthews to play with.
Yeah.
William Nylander.
What we do for content,
John Tavares, Morgan Rush. Do you want me to go?
Yes, I am well aware, and you know what? It wasn't a planned thing. This is what happens when I go off the cuff. We were talking about him making a bet with Drake, and I'm just like, I should make a bet with him. And in my head, I'm just like, what can I offer up that Cabby would want? And I couldn't think anything more than he would want to tattoo something on my body.
I would have thought a tour of downtown Cornwall would have probably done it, but I guess not.
Yeah. So if we win, he has to take Adam and I to a Jays game.
How did you agree to this?
I benefit both. I didn't open my mouth to it this whole time because I was like, I'm benefiting. So he loses. I get to watch him get a Leafs tattoo, which is going to be fucking great.
I am so confused right now.
Brent, do you want to make a bet?
No. Like, dude, I would put it on your face.
Okay. Neck down. No neck tattoo.
Wait a sec. Is it written somewhere I'm not aware of? Is there is there a list
for our bet? If I'm going to make a bet with you right now,
no, with Cabby, can he put it on your face?
I mean, it's a gentleman's agreement. Cabby, for the record, you would see in the video, was very hesitant.
Yeah.
Like, you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, hell yeah. And
you remind me of the guy at the airport I just saw last weekend who was wearing a Habs
he's not
hat.
On a no-fly list.
Well, he's got a Habs hat on backwards, so I see the big logo and a Toronto Maple Leafs backpack. I'm like, oh, who are you? So, listen, so Cabby just has to take you to a Jays game, and you have a permanent ink on your leg.
Well, only if I lose, but I'm confident I'm going to win.
It doesn't matter. This is the rules that you agreed to of just, Jays game's good. I will permanently stick something on my body. You need to up that.
Yeah, and we didn't even say where we're going to sit. He could buy us tickets in the 500 section.
Okay, first of all, the stipulation was he's coming to the game with us. He's not just buying us the tickets, have fun, boys.
Is this in writing anywhere?
We have it on video. It's recorded. It's on the internet. It's forever.
Oh, you can't believe anything you see on the internet.
Well, you tell me that now. Nobody else has told me this. But
all right, I'll leave you alone. All right.
My parameters, Brent, I will get whatever tattoo you want. You can pick any Sens player you want. I'm still confident. And I won't even know Cole Caulfield.
I'm not doing this.
No, I'm just testing to see who's a stand-up individual.
No.
Okay. No. What's your favorite fast food joint?
I can't eat fast food anymore. I've had a surgery recently.
Okay.
I'll pick it. I'll choose Wendy's for myself.
That would have been my choice. Was Wendy's.
All right. So I'll take Burger King.
Okay, it's a good
All
choice.
you can
I thought it
eat
might be-
at Burger King or Wendy's. Tim Stutz all day long.
Can I pick Cole Caulfield?
I thought
Did I
that's who
pick-
you are picking.
Okay, yeah, I'll go call Caulfield. Okay, we'll do that. I can do that. What
Is
is
it
it?
points or goals?
Your pick. I pick the player. You're agreeing to the bet. You're whatever you want. Points, goals, your pick.
Points.
Okay, interesting. I honestly thought in my heart you were going to say goals.
I think he's going to have. Well, I have no idea, obviously, but I like his chances of having a better year this season than last year.
That's scary because I thought he was absolutely dynamite last year.
Yeah,
But
you never know.
He's
You know what, Brent?
listen. You put on more. Like, look at Brady Tkachuk, for instance. If you were to take a picture of him in his rookie year compared to now, his neck is like 17 times larger. So
it's scary.
right. So that's Tim Stützle. If you saw last year, you started to see the muscle mass being built, and I think now he's coming in 1 year older, one more year of man strength. I think he's a dominating force.
I'm 28. Do you know when man strength kicks in for late bloomers?
About 42.
Okay.
And then at 43, you don't have anything and your back hurts.
Yeah. Is it possible that I skipped the man strength and went right to back hurts?
Well, yes, it's quite possible.
Okay.
I have a groin injury for like the last 6 months. I don't know how I got it, and I don't know how to get rid of it. It just is there. I think it just now that's what it is.
Yeah.
That is unfortunate.
So so much to look forward to as you get older, as everybody says.
Yeah, and you know what? I hope for your sake it's Wendy's because it'll be a cheap date. I can maybe do like the kids' chicken nuggets. In terms of
you can do whatever. If you just want a coloring book, you can have that too. But
do you have coloring books?
Yeah, man. Have
Damn.
a kid, dude. You'll figure out all this stuff.
yeah,
Like,
that's
cool
right.
toys and everything.
That's right. We know all the spots.
Yeah.
For Monday, it's
Yeah.
free here. Tuesday, it's
Hell yeah.
50% off there. Oh yeah, we know it all.
All right. Well, regardless, we will enjoy a fast food at either the King of Burgers or Chez Wendy's.
All right.
But it was honestly for the second time. I can't tell you how much of an honor it is. I'm going to let you go before something else pops into my head. It's probably bedtime. You probably have some texts from your wife as well. Brent, stop talking to strangers on the internet. Why are these two strange men talking to you? But thank you again. Don't know why anybody wants to do this with us, but we appreciate you.
Well, that's because I told you and I didn't realize I told you. So yeah, so that's why I'm here.
That's fine. So again, if
Take care.
anything else to anybody else is a PSA, do not talk to strangers and strange men in your DMs asking you to come on a podcast.
Perfect. All right. Good night, boys. You have fun. See you guys.
See ya.
Oh, that's good.